I would assume as a group you understand that, we probably aren't supposed to be here. We're probably not a very good football team. Out of 14 teams I think are in, we're probably number 14. We're a double-digit underdog in the playoffs. So let's just go play and have fun and see what happens. I mean, we're probably 20-point underdogs, and we're going to the number one team that's, I know they're not the number one seed, but they're the number one team that's won the AFC the last 2 years. Arguably the best team in football. We don't have a chance. So let's just go in and play and have fun.
Yeah, look, if anything, his routine neutralized the feeling I had after Tomlin. With Tomlin, it seemed effortless and organic and natural. Ben seemed like he was forcing the whole narrative a little bit too aggressively, but it's not an incorrect narrative. They're not 20-point underdogs. They are just 12.5. That's fairly significant, but they are widely regarded as the overwhelming underdog against the Chiefs, who beat them soundly at Arrowhead Stadium just a few weeks ago. So for good reason. They barely got into the playoffs. It felt like they weren't getting in. It felt like the Raiders and the Chargers were settling for a tie that would have sent them both to the postseason and sent the Steelers home while Mike Tomlin slept in his home. But it to me remains a powerful vibe that they, even with Ben Roethlisberger's best efforts to ham it up, it's still real. That is the vibe. That is the attitude. They do have nothing to lose. Nobody expects them to win. It creates a mindset that you can try to manufacture, and Tom Brady always tries to manufacture it. Everybody thinks we're going to lose. Nobody believes in this, even when everyone does. This is real. This requires no magic trick. This requires no suspension of disbelief. It's real in the locker room. They know that no one expects them to win.
100%. I mean, yeah, they do. It will lead to them, rallying together and, being able to be like a dog trapped in the corner a little bit where, yeah, they want to get out and fight and prove people wrong. I mean, again, I don't expect them to win the football game. I don't, for a lot of the reasons Big Ben just talked about. I do think the Chiefs are a better football team. You look at the first matchup, and you just go, oh, my gosh, it's so one-sided. But it is the Steelers, who I've also thought there was like 4 other games in the last month that they wouldn't win, and they did. And they just hang around, and they just kind of stay around and wait for you to make a mistake or slip up a little bit, and they take advantage, and now all of a sudden you look up and you go, what? They're within 3 or they're up 3. That's what they're looking for, that type of game where they can kind of just hang in there a little bit. And then maybe T.J. Watt does catch Mahomes slipping or running around the pocket and hits him and strip sack fumble. Maybe they do catch, the Chiefs on a day where, hey, that the disease of turnover gets them once again that we saw all through the year. Tyreek Hill trying to catch RPOs over the middle. The ball pops in the air, interception. So that's why they got to fight, keep believing in this, and realize that, hey, it only takes a few plays to swing the momentum and make it a really even, close football game. But as far as, what I would think, I think the Chiefs are the better team. And I do expect them to win the game. I want to say, they're going to control it. I don't want to say dominate or blow out, but I expect it to be around that 10-point victory, somewhere in that range for the Chiefs football team. I do.
So it sounds like you may be tempted to pick the Steelers to cover when we do our.
Maybe that's where I got to think about it. But I'm certainly going to pick the Chiefs to win the football game. Just the way it looked the first time, Mike, the way the offense of the Chiefs moved the ball, it was just all too easy. The Steelers' defense, it's that to me, they can't stop the run. They play a lot of these true zones that are not good against the Kansas City passing offense. They got to change it up. I mean, this right here is a great pass-protecting offensive line for the Kansas City Chiefs that negates one of the good things the Steelers have, which is a great pass rush. But man, it's not as great against this group up here, which is one of the best in football, with Orlando Brown and Tooney and the rest of the group there protecting Mahomes. So that's where they're going to have to find a different plan of attack a little bit, because it was just too comfortable for the Chiefs. Yeah, Mahomes was comfortable. They were able to throw little short passes like that, slants like this, can't make a tackle, ran up the middle for 5 and 8 yards at will whenever they wanted. So that's where I certainly think that's where it begins. The Steelers' defense approach, they're going to have to take more chances, maybe even play a little bit more man-to-man than they like. but I think that it's definitely got to be something outside the box of what they normally do if they want to pull off the upset.
And look at how patient Patrick Mahomes was when facing the Steelers. And this was the culmination, Week 16, the 8th straight win for the Kansas City Chiefs.
Right.
After they had fallen into their hole and recognized and accepted and fully embraced the idea that they need to be patient, that they need to take what is available, they need to take what the defense is giving them, and the Steelers gave it to them all day long. I mean, the Steelers aren't going to come from behind.
No,
the Steelers
that's right.
aren't going to wake up at 27-10 and all of a sudden rattle off touchdowns. The Steelers are going to have to get lucky early on with an unexpected uppercut that knocks the Chiefs a little woozy and makes them realize they're in a game at a time when no one expected them to be in a game. And then the Steelers have to continue that. It can't just be one lucky punch. They've got to get one lucky punch and then one more strategic jab and then maybe a little right cross.
Right.
And just keep the Chiefs on their toes all day long and hope at the end of the day they have more points on the board, that they stop Patrick Mahomes when he has the ball in his hands and an opportunity to win the game late. But we've seen it enough times this year, dating all the way back to Week 1 in Buffalo, when no one would have dreamed that the Steelers would have gone in there on the first day at Bill Stadium with fans after last year. What a great year it was. I think they managed to wedge some in for the playoff game that they had at home against the Ravens. But other than that, this was the homecoming. This was euphoria. This was people jumping through card tables. And the Steelers did that, block punt. Just something happens in every
block
phase
punt,
of the
strip
game.
sack, fumble on Josh Allen. Yeah, right.
It can't just be the offense, and
No.
the rest of the team knows that. And it's really that simple. And, Chris, we can go through the history of playoff upsets where we're like, what the hell just happened? And sometimes the reaction is we should have seen it coming, and sometimes there's no way we could have seen it coming. What the Browns did to the Steelers last year at Heinz Field, no one saw that coming.
No.
I assume we had that game on NBC. I assume that we did the full across-the-board Steelers logo picks. I can't remember anybody picking the Browns to win that game. Nobody thought the Browns were going to win that game. Nobody did.
No.
Now, that was fluke, and before you knew it, it was over by the end of the first quarter. But still, that's the thing. It's a one-game, winner-take-all, loser goes home, and I just don't think that we can discount what's happened to the Steelers since the last time they played at Arrowhead Stadium. The Monday night at home.
Sure.
The win over the Browns in Ben Roethlisberger's final game at Heinz Field.
Yep.
The vibe that was created that night, how special and magical it was. And you and I didn't believe in it last week. We both thought they'd go to Baltimore and get their asses kicked.
I haven't believed in it in a month, and we're here talking about it.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, whether it was the Titans.
Yes.
Right?
The Ravens the first time.
The Ravens at home.
Yes.
Right. There's just – and it's I love this because it's one of those occasions where at a time when the NFL has become so data-driven, so based in objectivity. Talked about this the other day about the difference between objective and subjective decision-making by coaches. Brandon Staley, objective process. Bill Belichick, when needed, subjective, gut-level pasta and meatballs or whatever his meal of preference is, decisions. The Steelers are the full embodiment currently of the idea that sometimes you just throw everything out the window and go play football.
Yeah.
That's why I'm struggling with this. Is this one of those games where you just throw everything out the window and go play football? And if it is, they have a chance.
I mean, yes, they do. It's hard to discount them or really just think they're scary. Of course, like we talk about a lot, they're used to being the big bad bullies. They want to be the team that out hits you and causes a fumble or a turnover through their physical intimidation, which is always scary because they do have a few guys on their football team that are capable of doing that. The Minka Fitzpatricks, of course, T.J. Watt, Cam Hayward, those guys, they're capable of, bam, one shot, and all of a sudden the game's different. Somebody catching a ball over the middle, ball pops in the air, interception. There's no doubt. But I do think this is a different animal. This is different to me than last year with like the Steelers versus the Browns. I mean, this Chiefs team I think is better than the Steelers from last year. This is there are some real matchup issues in the football game that I look at to where I just go, where can the Steelers make it different? Now you brought up some good stuff there. Yeah, they're desperate. Well, they need the special teams to show up. I don't know if that means you get ready for a fake punt, something like that. There has to be some sort of, advantage given to their football team that way, whether it's the turnovers, a big punt return, a punt block, something of that, a little bit outside the scope of the normal football game. That to me is where, yes, it's going to have to come down to that for the Steelers to pull off an upset. Because, Mike, even, you get into their offense. I mean, their offense was incapable of doing anything really in the football game during the competitive part. It was tough sledding. We know they want to run the ball, right, with Najee Harris. Yeah, but, man, the Chiefs, they got some dudes up front. And this is not a great offensive line by the Steelers. So they dominate the show there. Then what's the next thing we know about the Steelers? They want to throw the ball short, right? Ben gets it out of his hands. The Chiefs are in-your-face, man-to-man team. They make it hard to do that. So that's where it's like I look at it and go, they gotta throw a few curveballs in this one. They can't just play like, hey, we think we're the Steelers and the same formula that helped us beat Baltimore last week and some of these other upsets. I just don't imagine that working this week against this group in Kansas City. And that's, to me, where it gets interesting. It can't be dink and dunk. Chase Claypool's man-to-man on Charvarius Ward, they got to take some shots in this game. They got to back Kansas City off. And Kansas City got to play aggressive and in their face and come downhill the whole game. Never worried about anything because everything was 4 yards here, 4 yards here, run up the middle, 4 yards here, 4 yards here. So there was no element of that. And that's where I'm excited to see because I think Pittsburgh will have some curveballs here. But it's going to have to be calculated and smart, too. We know that, too. Because, again, the approach has to change on both sides of the football, in my opinion, and we'll see if they can do it. But I think it's a tough uphill battle here with this one. It's a tough matchup, I think, for them overall, just with the Chiefs. The Chiefs are better, and they also don't match up well with the Chiefs either. I guess that would be my 2 cents there.
Since 2019, the Kansas City Chiefs have had one postseason loss. It came in a game during which Patrick Mahomes was continuously harassed and chased. Remember, he had the toe problem that made it easier for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers pass rush to get after him. The Steelers, when placing Mahomes under pressure, forced him to go 0 for 6. The problem is he was only under pressure 6 times.
That's the problem.
When he had a clean pocket, he was 23 for 24. And when they tried to blitz him, the problem was he was 6 for 6 for 75 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Right.
So what do you do to generate pressure on Patrick Mahomes without blitzing him?
Well, that's where, that's where the approach definitely has to change on that side of the ball. First off, I talked a little bit about, the Steelers, they're not like, here you go. You see a 4-man rush. It's basic coverages here. Okay, they do a great job. This is to me, that's the kind of play we need the Steelers to make if they want to pull off the upset. TJ Watt, Cam Hayward and company, they're going to have game of the year type of performance to pull this off. There's no doubt because, you want to give the illusion of blitz. All right, there's 2 things that jumped out to me after watching the game around the first time. Pittsburgh, too simple with the coverages in the back end, just basic zones, basic coverage. Mahomes and company felt so comfortable, and it was just bing, bang, boom all day long. And then, of course, we talked about their run game. The Steelers got to do some, again, the illusion of complexity. Where, hey, we don't blitz. It's 2 guys blitz here, 2 guys drop out here. We're playing man, and we got 2 guys looking for crossers, whatever it may be. That's where it's got to be a little bit. But I don't think they can just sit back and play zone defense and think, oh, Mahomes will mess this up or do something that way, or our pass rush will get there, and that'll be the difference in the game. I don't think that's going to work in this one. The Chiefs and Mahomes, he's become more patient. They are a great pass protecting team. So to me, they got to take a few more chances on the defensive side of the ball. I would think they'd have to play a little bit more man-to-man. And like I said, try to find ways to pressure with 4, maybe 5 at times, without compromising coverage in the back end too much. That's going to be the challenge, is finding that balance of risk-reward of how they want to do that. Because like you said, when he was pressured, yeah, it's again, they have the guys that can kind of contain him and make him throw it away, and it could be a win. But it's just too few and far between at times, and that's where they really, fell behind the 8 ball with the score and being blown out there.
T.J. Watt was neutralized in the last matchup. No quarterback hits, no sacks, no anything. A tackle.
Nothing. No.
That's it. One tackle. I'm glad you said what you said, because it was shades of the old zone blitz. And I continue to be fascinated by the defensive fronts we saw this year from the head coach who got fired on Monday by Stephen Ross.
Right.
When you have 7 guys arrayed across the line of scrimmage and you don't know who's coming and who's dropping into coverage, I feel like they need something like that where Mahomes has to think for an extra half beat.
Right.
Where Mahomes isn't quite sure who's going to be clogging that lane where he's trying to hit somebody underneath, and he isn't quite sure who's going to be busting through to try to disrupt him and put him on his ass.
No doubt.
The old-fashioned, let's hope to get pressure with 4 guys, that plan isn't going to work from the traditional 4.
Right.
It's got to be, I think, an exotic front where it's both complicated and simple, if that makes any sense whatsoever, because the guys have to ultimately run it. You've got to be able, from time to time, if you're Cam Hayward, to drop back 5 yards and clog that underneath route. You got to be able to do that to make this work.
Right.
You got to have defensive backs who can spring up to the line of scrimmage, disguise what they're doing, and then make a beeline for Patrick Mahomes and try to track him down and knock him down before he can make something happen where he spots the mismatch on the back end. I just think that that's the kind of kitchen sink creativity that they need to have in order to have a chance, and they need it to work early.
No doubt.
They need it to work early.
Yep.
They need to put their hand in the flame early and hope that they can emerge without major damage and ultimately grab whatever's on the other side of that blast furnace that they need to try to parlay into their favor. That's what it's got to be.
Yeah,
it's got to be something like that. And that's why on game plan day, when Mike Tomlin's meeting with the media, and he's as loose as I've ever seen him and as relaxed as I've ever seen him, I would like to think that one of the great coaches in the NFL who was given a gift, an opportunity, something that at times throughout the course of the 2021 season, he probably assumed was not going to happen at all, right? And that's another question. How do great coaches hold back wrinkles for the postseason? 17 games, you got something you're holding in your back pocket that you devised in the offseason that you're going to wait to unleash Kraken style when you need it in the playoffs. Do great coaches do that?
No, they don't, but they're willing to go that. I don't think they hold it back. They don't have it and go like, wait, we got this in week 12. We figured this out. Let's hold it for the playoffs. What I do think happens in the playoffs, though, within the realization of like, hey, it's win or go home, and wait, we're playing a team that is better than us, and they cause some issues for us. We got to take some chances or maybe call or draw up some defenses, to your point, to like what you were saying, that we don't normally do. And that's where I always look at the team who lost the first matchup. They have the advantage in the second matchup from the schematical standpoint. The first team, of course, is going to come – the team who won the first matchup is going to come away going, wait, let's just do a lot of what we did in the first matchup. It worked great, right? And they add a few plays. But they don't know what's going to come from the other team and the adjustment in the second matchup. So that's where they're at a disadvantage. And, of course, the team that lost knows, they sit there and watch the film. They go, well, we can't do this again. We got to change the approach. There's no doubt. And that's where, yes, to what you were talking about with the defense and the scheme, that's where they're going to have to do some things, some creative, to try to find ways to expose the pressure, the protection. Hey, we're blitzing over here, and the line slides over there. Those 2 guys drop out, 2 guys come over here. It's a 4-man rush, and hey, we got 1 guy free, and it was a 4-man rush. They're going to have to find ways and keys in the Kansas City offense to kind of get those type of advantages, let alone, like you said, do some things in the back end that are a little unconventional that make Mahomes just go, wait, I'm going to throw it. Oh, no. And then maybe he dances around the pocket a little bit and gets hit like he did against Steelers the first time around with Alonzo Highsmith, and now the ball pops in the air. That, to me, is the Steelers' advantage. But this first matchup, it was way too vanilla, and the Chiefs were way too comfortable. He got to come up to the line of scrimmage and go, oh, it's this coverage, blue 45, set hut. Oh, it's still that same coverage. Let me just deal it out. And you're not going to beat the Kansas City Chiefs like that unless you just have absolute supreme talent. Like we saw the Bucs last year. They could do that because they were just like, hey, we're that awesome. The Steelers are not that defense this year. So they need some creativity and some curveballs that the Chiefs aren't right ready and prepared for this weekend.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.